Hi, welcome to our PlantPure Kitchen Live. I'm Kim Campbell, and tonight is an unusual night. Normally we go through Vimeo, and our Vimeo did not work today. It was down due to excessive traffic. So we had a few wizards at PlantPure who helped us figure out how to stream it into YouTube. So that's what we're doing now. Some of you have been watching what's been going on behind the scenes. So we're a little flustered, but you know what? We're going to get through it. And we knew there'd be some bumps in the beginning. So tonight we're making a really simple, well, it's simple, but there's several components to it. We're making Thai tacos. If you have questions, please put them in the question box. Nelson has a mic and he can ask me the questions. So as we go, hopefully you're cooking along with me and you may have questions and we can troubleshoot as we go. So the first thing we're going to start with, I know this recipe starts with the sweet and sour slaw on your recipe, but I really want to start with the taco shells first because we need to get those in the oven, and it's quick and easy, but I just want to show you a few strategies. First of all, a lot of people don't know what kinds of shells to buy. I buy a Food for Life, which is a non-GMO, all organic. I also buy the white Maria and Ricardo's, so that one works as well. So when you're getting ready to heat these up and make a taco shell, because some people like their tacos in a hard shell, some people like them in a soft shell. If you like them in a soft shell, all you have to do is steam them. You could grill them if you want, and you're good to go. But if you want them in a hard shell, that's a little bit of a different trick. So I'm going to open this up. And the Food for Life taco shells they're thick. They're much hardier. And if you try to form them into taco shells, it's going to be a little tough. So what I recommend that you do is take a wet kitchen towel, clean kitchen towel, and just wrap them in the kitchen towel. And Nelson, I might need you to help me with this because our microwave is over there. And the reason you want the towel to be wet is because you want them to steam a little bit so they're soft and pliable. So throw it in there for about 2 minutes, maybe 1.5 minutes. And I'm only going to do the sprouted ones. These work too, but they are a little bit more, they fall apart a little easier, so we'll just skip those. The nice thing about making taco shells is I'm really teaching you how to make corn chips as well. So what I like to do is in the morning, sometimes I'll just throw 6 or 7 in the oven and let them bake, take them out, and then break them up, and now we have corn chips. You can brush them with lime juice, you can put a little bit of chili powder on them. It's super easy. So while that's heating up, we're going to go ahead and start the slaw. But before, well, no, we're not going to do the slaw. Sorry, I'm a little flustered. We're not going to do the slaw. What we're going to do is we're going to do I call it the taco meat, which is really made with cauliflower and walnuts. So I used 1.5 cups of walnuts and a small head of cauliflower. A cauliflower head can range from huge to super tiny. You don't want a huge one. I would probably err on the very small side. But what you're going to do is use your food processor and first put the cauliflower in. Because if you start with the nuts, it's just a little bit harder to work it, so we're going to put that in there first. But while I'm doing that, let me show you how you can cheat. You don't even have to have a food processor. You can just buy this in the frozen section, riced cauliflower. I actually found organic, and I found it at Walmart, so it doesn't get any better than that. I would say 2 10-ounce bags is probably equal to a head of cauliflower. So if you wanted to really cheat with this recipe, you absolutely can. Ooh, it's done. Okay. So we'll hang on there for 1 minute, and we'll come back to that. What we're going to do with this is take it out. You can see it's steaming. It's really hot. And these are much softer to work with. So the way I make taco shells is kind of weird. I take it and I put it, you have a muffin tin, right? Tip it upside down and put these right between the muffin tins, just like that. And it works perfect every time. If you want to do smaller ones, this is a smaller muffin tin. You can make little bowls. Go right in the center. And now you can make bowls. Isn't that cool? Stuff it in there. Or if you want to use these bowls right here, I found these, I actually found them at the thrift store, but Bed Bath & Beyond carries them. And you can put your tortilla right down in that bowl and form it that way. So now we have several different options. I'm going to stick it in the oven at 375 degrees. Make sure you set your timer. Every oven is different. This is the first time I've used this oven. So Nelson, you're going to set the timer for 6 minutes. And we're going to hope for the best. Because sometimes if you just go over a minute or two, they'll burn really fast. So go ahead and put this in here. You can also lay them on the racks, but I haven't had as much luck laying them over the rack as I have with the muffin tins. Put those in there. Time it for about 6 minutes and then check. Once you know the magic, I mean, my oven at home is 8 minutes, 375, convection, every time it works. So, okay, so the next step, the cauliflower is in the food processor. I'm going to pull it over here just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to process this down before I put the nuts in there. You can put the nuts in there at the same time, but then you're going to be working it and working it and working it for a long time, and you don't want to have to get, you don't want mush. So, pulse it. So you see I've kind of got small pieces, but I want them even smaller than that. Now's the time to put your walnuts in there. If you didn't have a food processor and you used the frozen rice cauliflower and you had one of these things that you could just, I put my walnuts in there. I never know which camera to show it in. Just, let's see. It's got to fit in there just right. I love this thing. It always works. Except it's not going to work because it's a live show, so it's not going to work. But it does work. So you don't have to have a food processor for this recipe, but I highly recommend food processors, especially if you're cooking a lot of plant-based food. So we'll pulse it. That's all you need to do. Just pulse it a little bit. And then dump it out into a bowl. And I could have been more prepared today, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do this show, so here we are. And you can see the consistency is really, really nice. So if you wanted to cut back on walnuts a little bit, you can. I used 1.5 cups. You could add more cauliflower, but know that if you add more cauliflower, it's going to be mushier. So then we're going to add to the cauliflower garlic powder, onion powder. We'll start with the onion powder. 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Garlic powder, chili powder. Chili powder is usually pretty mild unless you're going with a chipotle chili powder. That's pretty spicy. And then coriander. So that's what kind of gives it the Thai flavor. And then we're going to add maple syrup and ginger paste. And some people said they couldn't find ginger paste. You can use fresh ginger. You can take your microplane and just brush it on the microplane. It'll take about an inch of ginger, but I'm going to use ginger paste today. I get my ginger paste in the produce section of the supermarket. 1 teaspoon. Be careful not to put too much ginger in because ginger is really nice, but when you put too much in, it can be really pungent, so just be careful with that. And then a little bit of maple syrup, just a splash. I think it's about a tablespoon, half a tablespoon. You don't need much. And then after the lime juice, and about a half a lime is equal to a tablespoon. And I think it called for 2 tablespoons of lime juice, so squeeze that in there. You can also just use it right out of the bottle. I like to use fresh if I can. Squeeze it. So that's about 2 tablespoons. And then just toss it around. You can use sriracha sauce, which is a chili sauce. And be careful with sriracha sauce, it's really spicy, so a little goes a long way. And my sister told me that she only had sriracha powder, which is much stronger than sriracha paste, so just be careful how much you put in. I like food with a little bit of a kick, so I'm going to go for a teaspoon. And that's it, you're done. Move it around. You can put a little pinch of salt in there if you want. You don't really need to put much in, just a bit. Or no salt if you're not using salt. And then prepare a baking sheet. I always talk about parchment paper, so I thought I'll use something a little different. And don't look at my pans, they're really, really ugly. But I use a silicone mat. And these are nice. They wash up really well. You can throw them in the dishwasher. They do get kind of cruddy and stained, but that's okay because it doesn't matter what it looks like. That's what we're going to put the cauliflower on. How are we doing with time?
It is 6 minutes exactly. I'm glad that you said, how are we doing with time?
Okay, I think they need about 3 more minutes. I'm surprised that he didn't tell you that I burn everything because lots of times.
I was going to say it's a good thing that I'm timing you today, and then I got so engrossed in the taco filling that I wasn't watching the clock.
So in the future, because we're social distancing, my daughter's going to be here cooking with me, so it'll be a little bit easier. And we're also going to have other guest chefs come in. We have a great chef in-house, Massimo, and I believe he is answering some of your questions right now on YouTube. So hopefully, Massimo lives in Texas, so hopefully we can get him here. He can cook for you. He's an Italian cook, a very talented Italian cook. Okay, so spread this around with your hands. And you know, don't be afraid. I know this is what I like, but don't be afraid to taste it as you go.
Hey, Kim, someone's asking, did you add the tamari?
To this? Oh, I forgot to add the tamari, but you know what? Thank you for reminding me of that. I put a little bit of salt in there, so I think it'll be fine for us. But yes, you should have added the tamari sauce, for sure. So I'm going to stick this over here. That's going to go in the oven. This is going to cook for, it really depends on your oven. At home, mine cooks for about 20 minutes. I have a convection oven, so it cooks really fast. But because there's a lot of walnuts in there and there's a lot of fatty, good fats, omega-3 fats in there, it will cook really quickly and it can burn around the edges, so you might want to move it around after a few minutes. This is such a nice recipe all by itself. That's why I wanted to do this recipe, because there's different components to it. You can bake an Italian spin on it and put Italian seasoning or maybe some sausage spices, and then you have something you can put on top of spaghetti, or you can put it in your lasagna. It's just really nice. I call it my taco meat. And you can make it Mexican as well. So put it in a bag, save it. You can use it all throughout the week. It's a great recipe all by itself. So I'm going to put this over here. When my shells are done, we'll stick that in.
It's been about 3 minutes for your shells. You might want to check.
Mm. 2 or 3 minutes, we'll do that, 2 or 3 minutes. So now we're going to do the coleslaw.
So at this point, Kim, everyone who's cooking at home should be putting the taco filling in the oven, right?
Yeah, you can put it in the oven. You might want to wait until if you're doing the hard taco, wait until those are done. And as soon as those are done, I'm going to take them out of the oven, and then I'm going to put the taco filling in. So if I'm going too fast, slow me down. I tend to do that when I get in front of the cameras. So we're going to do the coleslaw, which this is the part I'm really excited about. I want to show you tonight how to cut a mango. I used to peel the mango and then cut all around it, or I would take the sides off and then I would score it and open it up, and I'll show you both ways. But take your mango and you want to cut the bottom off of it. And the reason you want to do that is so that it will sit stable. You don't want it rocking all over the place or you'll cut yourself. And then there's basically two sides to it. So you want to cut the sort of the cheeks, they call them. You want to cut one side of the cheek off. If you feel that pit, and you kind of hurt it, if you feel the pit, just kind of go out a little bit further, flip the side. See, I'm getting into the pit, so I need to go out just a little bit further. And these are very ripe mangoes. Mangoes are in season right now, so I found tons of them. Now you've got these two outer edges here. You want to make sure you get those. And then out like that. And then you're left with the pit. And if you really want to get picky about it, you can stand there and kind of work the outer edges, but I don't think I'm going to do that for you. So what I want to show you is, so now you've got this half of a mango. You can score it. A lot of people cut it this way and cut it this way, and then they open it up. I think this is so much easier. Take a glass and tuck it in there. And then you might have to go on the other side a little bit. Same thing. And now you've got a nice mango and you didn't have to even peel it. You got all of it. And I'm telling you, there's just not very much mango in there. So we'll do the other side that way. I used to score it a lot, and when it's really ripe, scoring's not the best thing to do. I know, I need to take those out of the oven. Are you trying to remind me? There. So that's my mango hack. Let's check the oven and see what we've got. Yeah, I'd say they're done. Yeah, that was perfect timing, Nelson. You planned that well. So, I don't know if you can see these. They're pretty hot. Now, here's the thing about homemade taco shells.
Should you put the filling in the oven now, Kim?
Yeah. Homemade taco shells are not going to look like those taco shells you get out of the store that are store-bought. They're just a little more crooked. So now I'm going to put this in here, your taco meat, and that should be in there for, I don't know, about 20 minutes, give or take, depending on your oven. So these came out really nice too. Put these over here. So now we're all set to go. We've got these really cool taco shells ready to go. I'm getting directed here. So I told you to dice the mango, and the reason I like to cut it this way is it makes it easier to dice. Be careful not to cut your fingers, you know, tuck your fingers in if you're not good at cutting. And one mango is about 1 cup. And of course we have this too. I told you I wasn't going to cut and chop a lot on this show, but this one I just had to show you. And the other option is to use pineapple. And pineapple's nice, it's a lot sweeter than a mango. And so it'll just give your coleslaw a unique sweetness to it. All right, so we're good to go. Let me get that big bowl. And because I'm all about cutting corners, I think it's important, especially now since we're all cooking all the time, rather than standing there and cutting up all the coleslaw, I'm just going to use most of a bag. I'll save the rest of it for salads or whatever. Put that over here. So I'm going to put my mango in there. This is such a pretty salad. You could also put a little bit, it has a little bit of red cabbage in there, but red cabbage would make it a little more colorful. I'll add the rest of the...
Yeah, Lori Zorn said she used purple cabbage.
Ooh, purple cabbage. I bet that's beautiful. Yeah. And then I used 4 green onions. You can use, you don't have to use onions. You can use a red onion, anything you want. I'm going to put a little bit of cilantro in there because my husband hates cilantro, but you had it without cilantro last night. So some people have a real strong aversion to cilantro because it can taste soapy. I love it. So about 1/4 cup or more if you want more in there. Now we're going to season it. And this is what I love about this recipe. Most coleslaws are loaded with mayonnaise and sugar, and this one's just a really mild coleslaw. So it calls for 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Rice vinegar can be a little bit sweet. They do put sugar in it sometimes, so you just kind of have to gauge it. What did I say, 2 tablespoons? If you want more, you can put 3 tablespoons, but I think 2 is right with the sweetness. So 2 tablespoons of that, a tablespoon of lime juice. So I'm going to go ahead and use my fresh lime. And if you really love lime and you just can't get enough of it, take your lime and zest it. Not a lot, just a little bit. It just adds that extra little burst of flavor. A lot of times if something calls for lime juice, just putting a little bit of zest in there makes all the difference. And then you can salt it or not. Put just a touch in, not very much. And you're done. That's it. This is a great dish to pass all by itself. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was the peanut sauce. I love a really good peanut sauce. So peanut butter was hard to get a hold of. Mostly what was on the shelf was Jif and Peter Pan. Those peanut butters have partially hydrogenated fats in them. It's what holds it all together. So if you're buying a peanut butter that doesn't have any oil on the top, you're probably not buying natural peanut butter. This one was the only one I could find at the store. It has peanuts and contains 1% or less of salt, so it doesn't even have very much salt. But you can see that there's a little bit of oil at the top. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. 1. If you have an allergy to peanuts or somebody in your house has an allergy, you can also use almond butter, you can use sun butter, cashew butter. But peanuts have a pretty strong flavor, so you might lose that punch that you would get with it. And then about 2 tablespoons of water. Less is more. And I talked about this last time. When you're making a dressing, it calls for 2 tablespoons of water. You could start a little bit less and add more if you want. My sister called me earlier and she said hers was really thick because she got to the bottom of the peanut butter container and it was really dry, so she needed a bit more water. So you just have to gauge it. And then with a peanut dressing, it usually has a sour, it usually has a sweet component. So the sour component of this is the rice vinegar, so we're going to add a tablespoon of rice vinegar, but it's also the sweet component. So the first time I developed this recipe, I used a sweeter rice vinegar and I didn't need any maple syrup. This one's not as sweet, so I feel like it just needed a little bit more of a sweetener. So I'm going to add something to this recipe, but let's keep going. Then it calls for 2 tablespoons of lime juice. I'm running out of limes here, so I'm just going to use lime juice in the jar. 1, 2. And then it calls for tamari sauce. We can't forget that. 1 tablespoon. I get a low sodium tamari sauce. I like tamari sauce as opposed to soy sauce because it's just a smoother flavor. It's also gluten-free. 1 of those. And then the last thing would be a garlic clove and a bit of sriracha and ginger paste. So a teaspoon of ginger paste. I know what that looks like, but be sure you measure it. A garlic clove and sriracha. If you don't like spicy at all, you can leave this out. I would put about a teaspoon in, like that. And that's it.
Were you going to add some maple syrup to that too?
Yeah, well, I'm going to wait and see.
Oh.
So Nelson and I had it last night, and we both thought it needed to be a little bit sweeter, and it's because of the rice vinegar. So make sure you taste it. Something else I do, and I don't know where it is. I had it here a minute ago. You can make the dressing right in the mason jar. You don't even have to put it in the blender. You just shake it up, and it's good to go. I like to do dressings in here because it just helps everything emulsify and get creamy. If you're going to just shake it in here, then you want to add garlic powder and not a garlic clove. Garlic clove is a lot different than garlic powder, though. It's a little bit more powerful. So I'm going to turn the blender on. So really, when you're making a dressing, you need to make sure you taste it. It's close. It's really close. I am going to add just like a teaspoon, that's a tablespoon, but just like a dab of maple syrup. If you wanted to, you could put a date in there if you want it to be more of a whole food. And I think that's absolutely perfect. We're good to go. I love peanut sauce. So this is something that's really nice. You can have it in your refrigerator. You could put it on top of a potato, or you could put it on top of like a spring roll or a salad, anything like that. So the other thing I wanted to mention, this recipe is really fun because if you don't want to go through this whole process of making these, you can just bake up a sweet potato, put the slaw on top of the sweet potato, some of the taco meat, and some of the peanut sauce. It makes a really nice flavor. So I cheated and I made the taco meat ahead of time. And you can see how some of the edges for me burned a little bit. And I don't mind that, but that's why if I were you, I'd be looking in the oven right now and making sure that it's not burning or that you need to move it around. So I'll just check mine real quick. It's good. No, it's good. And then we're going to take one of these tacos and I'm going to fill it with taco meat and a little bit of slaw, some peanut sauce. The peanut sauce makes it. And then a little bit of cilantro, and you're good to go. So I'm going to keep building those. Do we have any questions? No
I
questions.
think everyone's busy cooking.
They're all busy cooking. I know it seems like this recipe has a lot of parts to it, but I think the parts can be eaten by themselves, and they don't all have to necessarily go together. Put a little bit of cilantro on that, some peanut sauce, put that in there, and let's see, I have another one. I made a bunch. So what I'm going to do with these tonight, because I made up a whole bunch of these, I'm going to break them up and I'm going to put them in a bag, and Nelson and I are going to have them for chips tomorrow, because we're kind of chip hounds. So taco meat, a little bit of that, peanut sauce, and a little bit of cilantro. I'm going to try this one. That's so good. Isn't it, Nelson? He's had it
Yes,
before.
I had it last night and it was
An
delicious.
amazing recipe. And you know, I think it's fun to, when our kids were little, we used to do taco bars, and we used to put everything out and people would build their own. So you can add more things to this if you want. It's a great way to customize meals, especially if there's people in your family who aren't necessarily plant-based. One other tidbit I want to add is if you don't want to fuss with the cauliflower and the walnuts, try Butler soy curls. They're really nice. Put them in water, they hydrate. You can process them a little bit, season them, and you can do the same thing. So I hope that you enjoy your meal as much as I'm going to enjoy mine. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry about the tech issues. Next week we're making quiche without a crust. We're making bell pepper quiche, and I hope you'll join us here. It'll be a lot of fun. Prep your vegetables, share the show with people. Right now we're offering 1 month free, so you can kind of try it out and see if you enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you back here next week at 6:30 sharp.